Remains our best open. So, Dominique, for your unique perspective today, let me set this up quickly here. So I did an essay on the air earlier this week about what I think is magnificent about the NBA draft lottery and the suggestion that the NFL might consider doing something similar. Less so because the NFL has a problem, but more because I think it might be magnificent for the league, for the sport, and for the fans, and to fend off the possibilities of any issues the NFL may have with teams not trying to win games late in the season, especially as their season has gotten longer, extending from 16 to 17 and eventually 18 different games. Nick, I noticed that you responded a lot on your social media. What are your thoughts on this idea about what the NBA does and what the NFL might do?
Yeah, I mean, I love what the NBA does, and I love the point that you made. I think it does eliminate the incentive to race to the bottom of the table in order to have the number one pick. But what it doesn't do is it doesn't encourage teams to win and make the playoffs. So on the other end, right now in the NBA, there are lots of teams who want to get the highest percentage, which I think is 3 teams, then 4 teams you include because the percentages don't change that much. Once they get into that range, they're comfortable and happy. I propose that maybe there should be a bonus, or some of the TV revenue distribution should change whether you make the playoffs or not, because I want fans and players and executives always to want to win. Not only not to want to lose, which I think the draft lottery solves, but want to win and eliminate any incentive to be terrible, because I hate that when anyone wants to stink. It just ruins the games altogether.
Absolutely, Nick. That was a good way of putting it. I always say that they incentivize losing. When you incentivize losing, that's inherently a bad thing. And Dominique's point, and we have been talking about it, is the best way to do that is to incentivize winning. And I'm all for that. Listen, I'm not sitting here. Let me make clear what I'm not saying before we get into anything else. I don't believe that any of these players step foot on a field in any of these sports not trying as hard as they can. But there's no question organizations in the NBA are not trying as hard as they can to win games late. And from an NFL perspective, if nothing else, I think it is terrible that the fans of a team that is having a bad year start rooting against them in November because it benefits them to lose. You should never want your team to lose. It should never be better for your team to lose than to win. So if only for that reason, I like the idea. Now, Dan, I know you did a little poking around when we did the piece the other day.
Would the NFL ever consider this? Right. And the answer I came up with is I don't think so at this point. They don't feel like they have a tanking problem that they need to address. Now, would it be a fun off-season television event? And would that be appealing to the NFL? I think history tells us yes. But it doesn't sound like this is something that has ever been talked about at the competition committee level or certainly ever been brought to a vote. At this point, they like their draft the way it is.
Well, I don't think the NFL is a tanking problem, but it doesn't mean that they're not in the business of the revenue challenge, right? The revenue opportunity, and that's a major revenue opportunity because that's a day in which you can once again own the marketplace. And a lot of brands can subsidize probably the biggest event that we will have in NFL throughout the entire season. That would be the biggest event.
It would be enormous. And look, it is not, you don't have to have a tanking problem necessarily. I mean, the NBA draft lottery, for those who don't follow this closely, the team that has had the worst record, what is it now, 5 years running or 6 years running, has not gotten the number one pick. I think that's fantastic. Let teams don't incentivize the losing. I think that is evidence that the draft lottery is working, not that it isn't working.
I'm a believer that the NBA lottery is just fine, working as intended. The one thing I will say, how many teams make the playoffs in the NFL?
14.
14 out of 32. So you would be putting 18 teams. So theoretically, a team, because in the NBA, if you don't make the playoffs, you're in the lottery. I don't know. In the NFL, I think you have to shrink that down. I don't think it would be right for a team that was like 9-7 to potentially get the number one pick.
Well, that could be a formula. I mean, the reality is,
just
the
decreases
NBA,
the odds, right? That's what it does.
There's odds and all that kind of stuff. I mean, look, the bottom line of it is this. Dominique, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what Jay Will is doing. You want the NFL to take another day from y'all? Relax. Stop giving them ideas. The NFL doesn't need another opportunity to take another holiday from the NBA. But I do think that, to your point, Greeny, incentivizing teams to win does really matter, and not having fans rooting against their teams really matters to me. I would say that I'm not one who believes that the NBA draft is rigged, but having a little more control will be nice sending quarterbacks to teams that we know are ready to produce them and protect these stars. I know you don't like it, Greeny. I know you don't like it, but I don't like the idea of having guys have their careers ruined because they go to trash organizations.
He just suggests that the NFL should get a lottery in Vegas.
Dominic,
exactly what
His position just puts a hit.
Unclear.
That's why it's a unique perspective. I said this in the essay. I'll say it again. Let's just be clear as we can be. The draft lottery is not rigged. N-O-T, rigged. This is a business worth billions and billions of dollars. They wouldn't jeopardize every penny of that over something that is that comparatively trivial. That said, imagine this. Imagine going to break saying there are 4 teams left. Arch Manning is going to be the #1 pick in the draft. And we got 4 envelopes left. And we go to a break, and it's either going to be the Jets or the Giants or the whoever it is.
Browns.
And the Browns, says our buddy here from Cleveland. It would be the biggest show of the year.
I don't think there's any question about it that it would be a successful TV product. Everything the NFL does is a successful TV product.
Right.
But the question is that enough reason to do it? There's this constant push-pull between like the business interests of the NFL and the competitive interest, right? Like if you're a team that finishes with the worst record, you get the first pick. Like no one's trying to finish with the worst record, but at least there's some consolation in it. The teams, the coaches, the GMs, possibly the owners of those teams would have an issue with it.
Was it in the best interest of the NFL to add more games to the regular season?
Yes.
Yeah, because they made more money.
In the business interest of the NFL, right?
Yes,
but
exactly.
There are people that think it's too much.
Okay, I will get more of this as we go. Schedule release. Take us through some of the things you thought were important that we saw come out on
I don't
Wednesday
think the
night.
defending champions were done any favors. I think the Eagles were given a very difficult schedule. They had no back-to-back home games throughout the entire season. And look at those final 3 weeks. At Commanders, at Bills, Commanders.
Wow.
Now, you could say, hey, look, they're the Eagles. They should beat those teams. I would take a nice little Raiders or Giants in that mix if I'm the Eagles down the stretch. The Eagles were done absolutely no favors, no back-to-back home games, and then a murderer's row at the end of the season.
And you have, in case, because Peter is new to our group, you can explain, and everyone, that there's no way the Eagles win the division.
Well aware that
Right.
the Eagles can't possibly win the NFC East.
Right.
Yeah, that's the rule. 21 years.
21 years.
The streak is old enough to drink.
That's right. No team has won the division in back-to-back seasons.
That's a big stretch for the Commanders, maybe.
So maybe keep an eye on the Giants. What was your next impression?
Good luck. Oh, my gosh. The hardest schedule in football record-wise. And then if you look at these first 9 games, where's the win? 7 of these teams went to the playoffs. The other teams, the 49ers, who are a perennial football team, start the season at Commanders, at Cowboys. If you're a Giants fan, you're like, all right, finally a home opener. Who is it? Oh, it's Mahomes and the Chiefs on Sunday night. We have all these celebrations about the Giants draft class. They might start the season off 0-9. So sorry, Giants. I'm sorry, it's tough.
And then give us one more.
One more. Bengals. If you're not going to start off the season well this year, it just may never happen for you. Every year the Bengals start off terribly out of the gates. This year they start off at the Browns, then they host the Jaguars, and they get J.J. McCarthy in their third game, which is not